Hi, so let's get started with some cybersecurity, the very first steps, and you are a beginner to this area, so I'm going to talk about what you're going to need to do in order to get started with that. Now, in order to know me, I want to present myself. My name is Daniel, and I have a master's in information security. I graduated from a university in Denmark called Aalborg University, and I want to say it's been a blast of a time taking that education. I do know a lot about security and different kind of things and areas, and one of my key areas is actually hacking, offensive security, creating my own devices, red teaming, and so on. But in this video, we're going to talk about, you want to get started in this area, and there are many different things you need to know in order to be successful in cybersecurity. First of all, you need to, of course, make up your mind what you're going to do and so on. Gonna make your portfolio. You need to be interested, I guess, also interesting in the area. And you also need to, be curious and all the kind of things. So this is a small presentation with, I think it's 12 different kind of points. We're going to talk about them slowly, and I'm going to present to you the things I know and the things I think you should do in order to get started with this area. So let's change the slide. The very first one here is the one called Introduction to Cybersecurity. What is that and why is it so important? Let's start from the back. Why is it so important, right? Well, cybersecurity is really important because if we don't have that, we will basically have a lot of insecurities and a lot of hacks and a lot of incidents all the time. Basically, it would be really bad to have any kind of digital business these days if we didn't have any cybersecurity experts. So I would say that would probably be explanation enough for now. Now, what is this cybersecurity thing? And you're probably gonna think, yeah, I heard about it, and it's very interesting, and my boss think it's fun, my friends think it's fun. I wanna know more about it. So look at the image below. We have stuff like application information, network operational, encryption, access control, end user education, disaster recovery. These are different kind of topics in the area that you can of course work with. Some of them go hand in hand. I would say probably you could say like in encryption and access control probably is somewhat in joined together and so on. Also, you could say that stuff like operational is highly tied together with network and so on. But in order for us to understand what these kind of things are, we kind of need to dive down in one of them or two of them and talk about it in more detail and thoroughly. So let's talk about disaster recovery. Now, disaster recovery is one of the things that is probably most important in the cybersecurity area, and you're probably going to ask why. Isn't it protecting? Well, yeah, protecting is of course really important. But if you cannot get back to business as usual after you've been compromised, it's going to be really bad for you, and basically your security wasn't that good. Because all the different kinds of security layers you have, you implemented, the things you do in order to mitigate the risk away from you. One of the biggest risks is losing your data. Losing your data basically means your business goes down and you, boom, cannot do anything. So, you need to protect your data. And basically, we can write that. We can write data right here on the sheet and say like, this is the thing we need to protect. And whenever we have some sort of incident, we need to do a disaster recovery, and that is basically the act of getting back to business as usual. Now, getting into the idea of what is that? What is disaster recovery more in depth? How does it work? Now, that is technical, and of course, that can be very different from case to case. But a very simple example for now would be that you have a website with a shop. And with the website and the shop, you have a lot of customers, and the customers did have a lot of orders already. And you need to save those orders. You need to save the customers, the IDs, their profiles, and so on. If you lose all that data, you need to start again. And the customers also need to start again. That would be kind of bad for you to lose that data. But if you had a good backup plan, which is actually what cybersecurity is also about, to have a good backup plan, then you would be able to recover your data, or well, just roll back to the most latest version of that data, and you would be safe. Really, that is one of the things that cybersecurity also is all about. a common misconception is that you're going to go ahead and create a profile on one of those new famous learn how to hack websites. No bad words about TrackMe, Hack the Box, and anything else. I'm just saying that the way to get into cybersecurity is not by just doing that. If you want to be serious in cybersecurity, you really need to take compliance seriously, and the act of actually implementing and doing planning for it, because the actual technical part behind cybersecurity is not really on the high end of the list when you're going to look at who you're going to hire to work and fix your cybersecurity issues and problems in the industry. So you're probably gonna ask why? Why's that? Because when my someone I know, friend, family, whoever, created the company, they had all the skills and they did the configuration and then installed the servers and they did the things you needed to do in order to be secure and safe, and they're still running it and secure and safe. Well, yeah. Well, first of all, there are many answers to this kind of situation, and you probably heard it before, the what if or the 1 in 1,000. I would say always think about, when you hear these kind of success stories, how large is the company? Were they lucky? Have they actually been hacked before without saying? Are they actually already compromised? Have they any relevance for hackers? Are there any value for them? Because at the end of the day, the hackers, that's going to hack a website, there are different kind of them. And some of them really do not care about, if you have an image of a cat or you're going to sell a bottle of water. They want something in most occasions, that is money. Or maybe they just want to show themselves and say, haha, see, I can write my name on your website. Those could be classified as, hackers of fame, or basically just hackers that deface your website. Deface basically means that they replace the front page or the landing page or a specific page that is popular. People, the hackers know people will see, with their own content and write their name, it's a music, something like that. That is very common. Okay, so let's change the slide. There are different kind of major fields in cybersecurity, and let's talk about these. The very first one here, let's talk about the one called information assurance, mainly CIA. It's a very interesting field. It's a very high term, specification, job title, list, whatever you're gonna call it, I created for you, because it's very high up. Okay, so we got information assurance. They mainly work with the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which is also what CIA stands for. CIA is a very common triad, or three very common words in cybersecurity you really have to know, understand, and how to work with them, and so on. The information assurance, and then you got different kind of job title. In America, which is what people usually refer to, they would probably call it an information assurance officer, something like IAO or something like that. Go nuts, I don't. It's really fine, In most occasions, in countries I know, we don't have these kind of names, It's probably just called, I don't know, senior security guy or whatever, just to have it. It's very common to see that many countries, they do follow the American standards for words and short terms and job titles and stuff like that, because it sounds funky. It sounds cool to have information assurance officer. Then you're some sort of a cool guy gonna handle the assurance, The things you work with as an information security officer is basically to ensure the three goals of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So you're going to go in, and make sure that the processes are there. You're not a technical guy. You are a information guy. You're going to talk with people, make sure things are tied together. And these kind of things do go hand in hand with some kind of people. Also, you can go ahead and work with network security, which is the second one I talked about. Network security basically is, network security. You're going to ensure that the network, in-house and out-house, inbound and outbound, the traffic go back and forth is actually secure enough to be set outside the walls, inside the walls. It's your job to make sure that your firewalls and your, you know, intrusion detection systems and stuff like that is actually working, your routers and so on. So it's probably not a bad idea to have some sort of, you know, engineering background here. You know, it could be system administrator with a master degree or something. You know, it would not be a bad idea. So the third one is going to be ethical hacking and pen testing, going back to the idea of creating a profile on TryHackMe, Hack the Box, or one of the other sites. Well, that's really going to be one rule. Depending on where you're from in the world, you know, this kind of job, ethical hacking and pen testing, is more or less popular, because it's easy enough to perform a basic pen test on a website or system. It is really hard to do a really good job in the area because most companies want you to do the black hat way, which basically means that you will get no information about the servers. You basically have to try and get in with the knowledge you have and whatever things you can see that is exposed on the internet already. Which is bringing us back to the general idea of not getting quality but getting quantity. And that is one of the issues with being a pen tester, is that you are quantifiable and you will be quantified. I really enjoy the fact that we can do quality work, and in order to do that you need to get into the company and talk to the people. You probably get a backdoor. The way to do the proper pen testing is to do the one called assume breach. Assuming breach is basically that you're going to go ahead and talk to the company, the boss, and making sure they have your papers filled out, so you're not breaking any laws, you're not be sued or anything if you break in systems, by, of course, not by means, but, you know, just unfortunately. Then you're going to get a backdoor in the system. Basically means that you're going to install some software. You're going to put a computer on the network inside, and they're going to see what can you do from inside, because if you do that, then you're going to get a really big amount of more quality to the work, and you will lose some of the quantity, which will actually make you do a better pen test. The fourth one is going to be forensics. Now, that is very interesting because forensics is a very popular topic in the police business, for example. You know, also got some very popular forensics companies that are hired for law cases and computer fraud and stuff like that. So in order, you're going to find out, did or did not that person do that on that computer, or what did that person do on that computer, what did that person type, visit, do, send emails, steal, connect to the computer, and so on. These are the things that the forensics officer is going to go ahead and check out. Now, in IT, forensics is kind of the same as, you know, if you're going to go ahead and check out, you know, a murder case forensics, then you're going to go ahead and check out, you know, the field and, you know, what you're going to find for clues and so on. It's the same in the digital era, in digital field. You're going to go ahead and check out the computer and what's on it and who did what and profile, logged in, all these kind of things. So the fifth and the final one, we're going to go ahead and call that compliance and risk management. It's a really high level place to work. It's not that it's non-technical all the way. It's really heavily based on communication, paperwork, making sure that you are compliant. Compliant basically means in this, and that's a very important word to understand in cybersecurity. You will get better in it if you continue on studying. Compliance basically refers to that you are following a set of rules that are, you know, as a standard, for example, by NIST or the ISO standard 27001, and basically these are just some standards saying that this is how you're going to work with security. These are the steps you need to follow. These are the things you need to document, and so on. A very simple way to say it, but you know, you probably get the point. If you do that, you can get compliant. You can get and then you're going to get let's call it a mark that you did security in a certain way, and then other companies you're going to work with and people, of course, in the industry buying from you can see that you are compliant with these kind of, you know, specifications, and they know that you handle security in a proper and good way, the old way. Risk management is another interesting point you can work with, and that's really all about how will you know what to implement in your company security-wise. Will you know what to do without knowing the risk? Well, that is one of the things that risk management team is actually going to check out. So they will look at, well, what are the risks? What are the biggest, smallest, largest, and who's going to work out with these kind of things, and make sure that things are handled in a proper and good way. Now, I really hope that you got some sort of idea of the major fields in cybersecurity. These are, of course, not job titles. These are more areas of work, and there are so many subtitles in these big areas that, I'm not even gonna dare and create a list for you. This is the way to go, and I really hope you learned something from this slide. Number 2. Number 3 is called the basic concepts and terminologies. Now, in cybersecurity, there are so many things you need to know. I cannot even start talking about what is important and important. So I created this small list of 4 groups. The first one is, something you already heard about, the CA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now that refers to the confidentiality, refers you to how can you keep a secret, right? So imagining a website, you have a profile and you have, let's say, your bank information there. That is important for you to have secret. So the system needs to enforce confidentiality in a way that you and only you can log in and see your information. No other can do that. That is one way of thinking about it. Integrity go hand in hand with confidentiality. Now, integrity goes in and say, well, so you can see some data. Can you alter other data? Can you alter some data or that is not yours, for example? That would break integrity. So your data needs to be alterable by only you and just you. If anyone else can do that, well, that's bad. Then you kind of break integrity. Availability is another very interesting security goal. These are, by the way, 3 security goals. The availability security goal refers to that need to be online. Still keeping the example of a web page right now, a shop, right? So you need to be online 24/7, and in order to do that, you need to mitigate your way out of, breakdowns or DOS attacks, which basically means some hackers are going to go ahead and try and make a lot of noise to deny the traffic of legitimate users to your website. So how can you do that? And that is actually what this is all about. Threat, vulnerability, and risk. Well, a threat is something that is not happening right now. It is something that, could happen. You're going to be aware of that. And that's very important for you to know, because it's very difficult to understand a threat and what is a risk, right? So a threat could be like, well, you have a building and you have internet connection, and there's a threat you will be, hacked. A vulnerability is basically the same. I'm going to give you a physical example. You have a door, and it's made of wood. Maybe it's a thin wood construction door. Then you can just kick it in. That is an actual vulnerable door. So that would be identifying that we have a vulnerability on the door. Now we're going to talk about risk, because this is going to probably tie it all together for you now. The risk is something that is calculated. Let's say you have a threat and you have a vulnerability. So the threat of an outsider could come and kick in your vulnerable door as a vulnerability. That is a high risk, because you have a building just next to a pub where a lot of drunk people go, and they like to kick on doors. We all know that. Drunk people from pubs kick on doors. I don't know. That's just a thing right now. So that is the way these work, okay? Then you got something like malware type, viruses, trojans, and worms, and etc. Now, I could probably talk about these things a lot. I'm gonna stick to the general term of malware. It basically short for malicious software. Now, malware can be many different kind of things. The common thing about a malware is that we do not want that. We do not want to be infected by malware. We want to be happy and not have it. Viruses are something that, gonna be on your computer and thrive in a way and do stuff like spying and send data and so on. Trojans and worms and all the kind of things does the same thing. They just are different, they just work differently. So in order for you to understand these kind of different kind of malwares, you probably just go ahead and look up different kind of malware types in Google and press enter, and you will find them. No reason for me to sit there and right here and just mentioning all these. It's not that important for you. Then we got some common attacks, and I think it's very important for you to just understand that you got something like phishing, DDoS, man in the middle, and so on. Now, we already mentioned DDoS, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about phishing. Now, phishing is probably something you heard about already. You're going to get a weird email. You need to click on it right now because your aunt is giving you $2 million, and in order to do that, you need to transfer $15, and then you're going to be asked to transfer $50, maybe $100, and so on, but never get the money. That is actually a scam. But in order to that scam to work, you're going to be sent an email that's going to lure you into some sort of deception. This is what this is all about. Man in the middle is a type of attacks that refers to, let me give you a physical example, that two people are talking together. In between those two people, you can eavesdrop on them, right? Then you will be the third in that conversation. Now that the original two having the conversation would not know you would be there, then it would not work. So that's actually called man in the middle. So you are in the middle, and eavesdropping on the conversation basically means that you will know exactly what they know, and you will hear what they say. All right, it's time to change the slideshow. Let's go to number 4. This is more a reflection kind of thing than actual, big talk. The importance of a strong foundation, there are the relevance of IT fundamentals in cybersecurity, networking, operations, system, database, and so on. Now you need to focus on knowing, your fundamentals, because you cannot be good in cybersecurity if you do not know the, networking, operating systems, and database, and so on. Now, I'm not saying you should be an expert, but even though there's different kind of work areas that I already talked about, the 5 big ones that I talked about earlier, are different. They all require you to have this fundamental of knowledge. So I highly suggest you go ahead and get a good education where you can focus on learning about computing and these kind of things, because if you know how a computer works, the chances are that you will be the better cybersecurity employee, will be higher. Another point is how a solid IT background aids in better understanding security. It kind of goes down into the fact I just talked about. Getting an education is really important, so I think you should do that. Another thing that can be quite interesting sometimes is actually setting up a lab environment, because, not to undermine the crucial, for hands-on learning, it's very crucial that you know how to set up a lab. Now, depending on what you're going to do and which kind of thing you're going to work with, if you're just going to work as a compliance officer, chances are you're going to set up a lab environment is just none, But if you're going to do anything that is just a tad amount of technical in it, there's a big chance you're going to do it. So also just learning about what is virtualization, that's a really good thing. And using tools like VMware, VirtualBox is just the way to go for you. It's also going to make you able to practice what you're going to do. So safe practices, and that's going to enable you to do stuff that is illegal. And if you do that on your own systems, well, basically you will not do anything illegal and you will be home safe, but you'll still learn, and that's basically the general idea behind it. Okay, so we're going to go to the essential resources and tools. Now, there are different kind of, ways for you to attack this kind of thing, The introduction to tools like Wireshark, Nmap, Metasploit, and so on, and this is just, a list. But if you went to Google and wrote essential resources and tools for cybersecurity, and then you may be mentioning stuff like Wireshark and Nmap, or even go to ChatGPT and ask for that, well, you're going to get a really good list probably of websites. You're going to find blogs, websites, forums, so on. And you're going to go ahead and read these kind of things and be a part of it. Because people share stuff, sometimes a little too much, sometimes a little too little. But, at the end of the day, you're going to keep yourself updated in what's going on out there. That's really the general idea. Also, go ahead and check out if there's any popular news outlets for cybersecurity. It could be, websites, blogs again, forums, and so on. Maybe a newspaper. It could be a podcast. I wanna be straight right now and say this. If you're gonna be serious in cybersecurity, you're not gonna go ahead and do that by, creating a profile on TryHackMe or HackTheBox and just stay on that. I know that's what they all want to tell you. I know why, because they earn money on it, right? It's that simple. I'm not saying that TryHackMe or HackTheBox are bad. I'm just saying that don't stick to those alone, because that's not gonna cut it for you. Again, different places in the world might give you a job if you got some certification from HackTheBox. They do have a certification, and that's going to be great for you then. And I'm happy for you if you got that opportunity. But in most occasions, you need a bit more than that. And this is what I'm just saying. It's going to bring us back to the general debate and talk, What about formal degree versus certification versus self-learning? Okay, I'm going to take you back to when I was young. I'm 42 years old now, and I see myself as a middle-aged man, in the middle of my, prime. I'm just, in the area for sweet spot right now, and I have a lot of experience. I still have time to learn a lot. I still have time to do a lot of things. So I do that. I do what I love to do, and that is to, help, you guys on YouTube, of course, to be better at what you're going to do in cybersecurity. But that is also to play guitar, and be my wife, my son. It's also to learn, take more educations. It's to train strongman and so on. I like many things, but at the end of the day, the same debate's going to be there for you. The formal degree is always going to be better than certification and self-learning. Now, I'm going to explain this to you in the most simple manner. In society, we like paperwork. We just like to see that you know what you know. And you can prove that by taking a formal degree. That's it. Certifications are really good, but look at it as a certification as like an add-on to your formal degree. So you get a formal degree and you do some add-on to that to spice it up. That's it. Self-learning. Now, let's go back to my past, my young days. Back in the days, back in 1995-ish, there wasn't really a lot of good IT education. So there wasn't really any, good. There was some, but they were old and outdated, and it was more about how to fix a computer with, lead and, motherboards and stuff like that, putting on new motherboards, putting on RAM, putting in a stick, and changing the socket. Very boring stuff, but it was really the world of IT back then, You didn't really do anything on it, and computers were really bad, They couldn't do much of anything that we can do these days. So I just want to say that I'm also self-learned, but I'm also educated with formal degrees, and I do also have certifications. I started out learning how to code HTML and CSS when I was 8 years old. That was probably not a bad idea. I was really good at these kind of things, pattern recognition, and I couldn't really do English that good back then. I wasn't really good at it because the educational system in Denmark back then, introduced English in the 7th grade, I think it was. So we had it for, I think the 5th grade maybe, but we have it for a very short amount of time. Compared to young people these days, they grow up with English. My son is 6 years old, he can already speak it almost like. And that's the thing. It's a very big difference. And so we had to do it ourselves. So I am also self-learned. I understand what that can be for you. I understand you can learn a lot of things really fast that really interest you in a certain way. But those times are done. We cannot anymore get a good job by saying, oh, I'm self-learned. I'm not saying that one of you guys probably did it or still doing it because you already have some experience. But remember that you have some experience already. You probably have had a job, and that job's gonna give you another job and make that as a jumping point. If you only have self-learning, no prior job or past experiences, I beg to differ that you probably will struggle a lot. In order to understand different kind of certifications, now there are some entry-level certifications such as the CompTIA Security Plus, eLearn Securities, EJPT, and so on. Now, there are of course certifications that are really, really expensive, and some of them are more or less affordable. The CompTIA certifications are kind of affordable, and I would say go for it if that is what you want. I'm not the man of certifications, and I do have some, and that's really good, but I also think that the most important thing for you is to remember if the job you're gonna work at will give you free certifications, well, I would say of course do it. You will learn something during the certification, and that is really what I suggest you're gonna go ahead and do. Learn something from it and bring it back. Maybe avoid to pay for it for yourself because it's gonna be quite expensive. And of course the last one is like, you will never be done. You will always have more things to do, to learn, to work with, and so on. Embrace that and you will be golden. Alright, so we're gonna get to the 8th point here. It's called soft skills and cybersecurity. Now, I'm not talking about software here. I'm gonna talk about, importance of you to understand problem solving, for example, like critical thinking and analytic mindset, because when you're going to go ahead and analyze stuff on a computer, you need to do that with a certain step-by-step mind. You gotta think critical on what you see and, well, not make any stupid, easy, conclusions. Another thing that is really, really important in many cybersecurity skills and areas is that you do have good communication skills. And I wrote especially for roles that require conveying technical information to non-technical stakeholders, because that is just really, really difficult to do. And if you can do that, well, that's really good. It is for some people. It is also not for all people. I would say I wouldn't mind doing it, but it's not really my thing, those kind of things. I do it on YouTube, but that's different. It's a different topic. It's a different, channel and stuff like that. To actually work with that for me would not be the case. I'm a teacher, this is what I do, and this is what I would like to do for probably a very, very long time. Now, gonna take us back to building a portfolio, because this is the thing that I just have to say. You need to think about how to build a really good portfolio, because depending on where you are in the world, the cybersecurity business is getting more and more popular, and some countries it's probably already having its prime time, so you're gonna have a lot of competition, which is why your portfolio is more important than ever. Documenting your project in labs and research, putting it in some sort of way it's easy to understand and see what you did in your portfolio is not a bad idea. Using platforms like GitHub or stuff like that, GitLab for example also be it, to showcase your skills. That is a bit more technical. Depending on what you're going to put in your portfolio, it could also be that you work with Microsoft and you were compliance officer there for 3 years and you help them with, becoming compliant. It's a really good thing to have it in your portfolio. Show what you can do, be honest, and make it as easy to understand as possible. The 10th point is networking and the cybersecurity community. We did talk about that just really short earlier, but joining some local groups, organizations, that's probably something you could do. That could be stuff like Try Hack Me, to mention them, or Hack the Box, to mention them. But also remember that you just need to join it. You also need to be a part of the community. So joining the Discord channel and being there would be a great idea. But that's not this is the best thing you can do, because joining these kind of, websites, even though they're really good, not really gonna keep you updated in a way that's professional way of updating. So I'm just saying, do what you're gonna do, but also think about that there are other ways to do it, such as going on Google and maybe searching for something. I will not suggest you something right now, because depending on where you are in the world, you're gonna have something in your language, and I have no idea. Literally, there's so many of them. So I'm just gonna give the general recipe. I really hope you understand why. Importance of conferences like DEF CON and Black Hat and so on. There are different kinds of conferences. This is very American, DEF CON and Black Hat. We don't have these kind of things in Denmark. We do have something different, almost the same, but not really. But do engage yourself in conferences and be a part there in the actual active community. Try to get some networking there and get to know people. Be friends with them on LinkedIn. Do some resources there. Make some articles. Write something about what you know and see what happens. Ask for feedback. So really, that's the 10th point. Going to the 11th point is ethical considerations. Now, the importance of integrity in cybersecurity, difference between ethical hackers and malicious hackers, and legal consequences of unauthorized hacking. Now, these kind of things build up to the sentence me saying, now you learned all these kind of things, can you keep them in your own yard? Well, most people can, but some people want to try more. I know how tempting it can be to say, I learned how to hack on Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, and I want to try and do that to a actual website and see if it's really that hard or difficult. Do they have that problem? Can I really do it? I want to say don't do it. It's illegal. You can get, fined, or you can be put to a courtyard and, put in jail. So please do think about what you can do with the skills. The last point is going to be conclusion, thoughts and next steps. We went through a somewhat long story, 40-minute video already, and we're coming to the end of you continuously learning in cybersecurity. So I really just want to encourage you as a viewer to take the first step. And I don't know what that's going to be for you, but consider the things that I already talked about. Check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot of things going on. But don't stick to one YouTube channel. Learn from as many as you can and keep yourself updated and do it in a way that you feel is good for you, so you don't get bored with it. Now, I want to say thanks for getting this far in this video. I really hope that you learned something about it. It's more like a talk, a conclusional talk towards how to attack this area of getting started. Please consider liking, commenting this video. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel. It will help me a lot in order to continuously bring good content to you. is to get more subscribers and get more viewers, because it will, at the end of the day, help me to make sure that my equipment is up to date, the software I use, and so on. Have a really nice day, and see you again.